You know, we've had the most gorgeous summer ever. It's been way too hot for Sweden. Global warming, am I right? And it's been really sunny. And as soon as it's time for me to sit down and pre-film things, it's just gloomy and rainy. It makes everything just darker than it probably needs to be. And that's why I'm on the floor. Again, maybe I'll just make this my permanent filming spot at this point. Because let's be real, winter in Sweden is dark generally. Hello, my name is Nat, or Natasa, whatever you want to call me. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about just some books that I think have some amazing family dynamics or friendships. I have 5 books here to talk about. I think all of them are YA. I'm thinking about maybe doing a part 2 where I talk about some other books as well, but I wanted to actually be able to talk about them some without making the video, an hour long. When I was doing my little sort of like mini thesis to get my BA, I talked about YA and sort of what classifies as YA. Like there are certain things like you have to do for a book to be classified as a typical YA book. Of course, this is not like a rule. You can do whatever you want and still have it be catered to young adults. But one of the things that were mentioned in the texts that I read to write this essay was that parents are usually very absent in YA literature, which is very true. Generally, the big, mainstream series and stuff that we have read, they are YA. The parents are either dead, or they're being like kidnapped, or they just don't care. They're just absent in some way. And even if they do care, they're just somehow not very involved in what their, child is doing. Which is why I got very surprised when I read this certain book that made me think of this idea, because the family is so involved in the main character's, life. And even if she doesn't tell them everything that she's doing, they're always like looking out for her, and she knows that they are going to be there if she needs them, if she decides to tell them certain things. And the book that I'm talking about is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which I read at the beginning of this year, I think, and I just haven't been able to stop thinking about the family dynamics in here. This follows the story of Star, who witnesses her best friend being shot and killed by a cop for allegedly having a gun. It wasn't a gun, spoiler alert, and this is a direct response to the police brutality that's going on in the US that's gotten a lot of attention in the past few years. This, I think, was the first novel to come out that specifically addresses that. This is a very powerful book and very important book, and I know that, there are a lot of things to unpack here. You could talk about a lot of different things in here, but this is specifically a video about the family dynamics or friendship dynamics in books, so I'm not going to talk too much about necessarily the big plot lines, but the family in here, they are so wonderful. Star has a younger brother, an older half-brother, and then her 2 parents. It just shows such an unconditional love in this book because they're all supportive of Star. They all just want what's best for her. But there are also aspects in here that show that family doesn't always have to mean that you're related by blood. For example, like I said, she has an older half-brother. That brother is not related to her mom, to Star's mom. But we get to see a development in their relationship too. I just think it's so wonderful because we rarely get to see, a character. She's 16. We rarely get to see main characters get support and comfort, being comforted by their parents. And I thought that was just a really lovely thing to see in a book where, a book that's kind of about quite a lot of heavy stuff. And I am aware that not everyone has supportive parents, so I'm not going to talk mainly about parents. I'm going to talk about some friendships as well. I just wanted to talk about this first because it was what made me think of this video idea. But while we're on the topic of parents, I am gonna also mention The Inexplicable Logic of My Life by Benjamin Aliossayens. Why was that in French, Benjamin Allaire Science. This book is about a boy named Sal who is adopted into a Mexican-American family. He's white, but never once in the book is like his place in the family questioned, and I thought that was lovely. This book basically deals about him starting to feel himself change, not be who he always thought he was. He was starting, he's starting to like fight people and stuff, and he's just very confused about where this anger has come from. Alongside of that, it also deals a lot with his best friend Sam going through a bunch of stuff. We get to see a lot of Sal's family in this book because his grandmother is very, very sick in this book, and you sort of get to see the unconditional love between them, and I think it's so stunning, so heartbreaking. And we get to see, his relationship with his dad. His dad is gay, but he's like raised Sal as a single parent, and their relationship is very, they're very close to each other, which is why when Sal starts changing and just feeling these weird things that he's never felt before, he doesn't really know how to talk to his dad about it because it's just never been an issue before. It's about trying to come to terms with who you are, but also just never once questioning the fact that you are loved by your family. If we go back to Sam for a second, his best friend, we get to see her struggle a lot with her family as well, but we never once question the fact that she also belongs to Sal's family. She's very close to them all, and she and Sal act more like siblings than they do friends, I want to say. Like, they have this tough love, that maybe you and your sibling have, where you aren't scared to tell them something that you're thinking, even if it might be like a critical response to something that they're doing. Obviously, you're not going to be like super mean about it. I feel like when it comes to some friendships, I'm not always comfortable saying everything. It obviously depends on like how close we are. Sam and Sal show their own kind of bond, their own kind of family, and they have this acceptance of each other. Like, even if Sal is very much struggling with Sam having this specific view of him that is suddenly not really who he is anymore. So things are changing between them as well, but we never once question their, bond. It's just I want to say this book is like a bit of a love letter to family, like whether you're related by blood or not. I have read other books by this author, and I think this one is the most profound one when it comes to, family dynamics. I read Aristotle and Dante, and that one, Ari he wasn't as trusting of his parents in that sense, because he's going through a lot of struggles, and he doesn't have the same type of relationship as Sal has with his dad, for various reasons that are explored in the novel. This isn't my favorite novel of his that is like in the terms of how it's written, but I think once you like get into it and let the story starts affecting you, you will just fall in love with this family. It was so nice. It was so nice. Now we got the parenting stuff out of the way, so I have 3 books that I'm gonna talk about that deal with friendships. The first one being The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Technically the whole series, because we definitely see the friendships evolve throughout the whole series. This is essentially about a group of teenagers who are looking for a dead Welsh king. That's like the, main plot line. A lot of other things are happening in here. Blue is a girl who starts hanging out with these Raven Boys, who are like, they go to a private school or something. Blue comes from a family of psychics, but she herself does not have any sort of psychic abilities other than the fact that she can sort of make other people's powers stronger. So it does have a bit of like magical realism. I want to say this is urban fantasy, I think that's what it's called. And she becomes friends with these boys, and like slowly throughout the 4 books we just like, their friendship is so beautiful. Like, we just see them like sort of like all be in love with each other. I think that is so stunning. Not necessarily romantic love, though. I mean, I'm not gonna say that romantic love doesn't happen eventually. They would literally like do everything for each other. That's the sort of like unconditional friendship that I want to be in, where they can just call each other and be like, hey, I'm not feeling well, talk to me. But they don't have to really like spell things out for them to like understand each other. It's just stunning. I feel like if you're not here for the plot, you will stay for the characters. Maggie Stiefvater is so good at creating raw, real characters who are flawed and they make mistakes and they just can be awful at times. Like in certain situations they can be selfish, but they can also like they do everything for each other at the same time. They're just so real, and that friendship, like, I don't know if it exists in real life, that friendship. I want that friendship. I love it. I love it. Speaking of characters who are in love with each other, we have Dress Codes for Small Towns by Courtney Stevens. This is a book about a girl named Billy. She lives in a small town, and her father is the preacher of the town. And one night, she and her friends sort of like burn down a church or start a fire in a church or something. And obviously then they have to deal with the consequences of that. A lot of other things like go down in here. Billy is sort of struggling with her sexuality, sort of with her identity, because she's definitely not the like feminine type. She's definitely more of a tomboy. She doesn't like dresses. I think she had like a specific haircut, I don't remember, but and like people are sort of speculating about her in that small town, and she's, you know, trying to come to terms with who she has feelings for as well, maybe. The group of friends are like 5 or 6 people, I don't actually remember, but we get to see them sort of go through the consequences of what they did, as well as, you know, everything else that happens throughout the story. And they also, just like in the Raven Cycle, they have like this unconditional love for each other, where they, even if things are actually actively wrong between two of them, they would still do everything for each other. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. They are definitely like unique in their own ways, but they still somehow work within the friendship. And I just think this book did a fantastic job of portraying that friendship. Last one I have is a book that I'm not sure if it's YA, which is why I'm like, is this a YA recommendations? I don't know, because it was self-published. But that is The Foxhole Court by Nora Sakavic. This is about a guy named Neil Justin, and he is essentially on the run from his sort of mafia boss father, who is probably gonna kill him when he finds him. And Neil has, up until the point where the book starts, like, he was on the run with his mother, but his mother has passed away, which is like the first thing we find out in the book. And he's now sort of like hiding by attending a school and being in the sports team, the EXI sports team. EXI is a made-up sport for the series in like particular. And he has this big passion for EXI, and he gets recruited into a like university team, and this team like is for people who like no one would give a second chance to because of their history or whatnot, but this team and this specific coach does give them the second chance. Like, come to my team, play in my team, try to like be better, like I'm giving you a chance to do better now, to get better. And I wouldn't necessarily say that the friendship dynamics are fantastic in the first one. It like these people have like the biggest trust issues, and they are like, they have done terrible things in their lives, and which is why they are in this, you know, the team. And this book is like just an introduction to it all, like how Neil settles in with these people without like, he doesn't want to tell them who he is like for real, because Neil Justin is not his real name. So he has to keep this secret identity while still playing, because when he was younger, he started playing EXI, and his mom like forced him to stop because he's not allowed to bring any attention to himself unless he wants to die. And he goes like actively against this advice now that she's, you know, gone. even though he knows he shouldn't. So he's planning on only spending like a certain amount of time in this team, and like once that time is up, or once people start like being suspicious, he's gonna leave. He's gonna like bail on them. And there are 2 more books, and we definitely get to see the relationships evolve in those books. It's not perfect. It's not always pretty. They do terrible things to each other at times, which is why I think it's so fascinating. Like, because at the end of the day, towards the end of the series, they would still like do everything for each other. They have been through a lot, and now they get to sort of like find their own family, essentially, because family is not always about blood, and you shouldn't get to be judged for what you once did if you're actively like trying to be better. And that's why I think the friendship group and whatnot, the team, the dynamics between the team in this series is absolutely wonderful. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this book, the series on BookTube. The one like person I heard talk about it was actually like didn't like it. So I was like, huh. I was actually so surprised because I really haven't heard many people mention this book, and then I was watching a video and they were like, the Foxhole Court, and I was so shocked because this book just doesn't seem to be very popular here. And like the one thing people did was bash it. I was like, my child. But yeah, those were just 5 books where I thought the friendship or family dynamics were just absolutely amazing and fascinating, and I would honestly read like 3 other series if I've just got to see like these friendships again. Like I said, I might make another video, a second video of other books with good friendships or family dynamics as I read them. And let me know if you have any recommendations for books that do have nice family dynamics or friendships, so that I can maybe check them out. And I hope you are well. I am pre-filming this, but I hope to be posting every Wednesday if I can. But yeah, I'm gonna go. I might be on the floor next time you see me again. We'll see. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I have been Nat, and will continue to be Nat once I'm done here. I'm just gonna awkwardly get closer to the camera so I can turn it off. Goodbye.